My husband just said he's going to be quiet. Okay, so today is day 2 of bivariate data. So yesterday we talked about types of correlations. We talked about positive linear, negative linear, no correlation, and nonlinear. So again, we had something that was positive, made a straight line. We talked about something that was negative, made a straight line. We talked about dots all over the place, and something that made a pattern but just wasn't a straight line. Okay, so today we're going to talk about how we make predictions when we have a scatter plot, when we have data. So we're going to talk about making predictions. So we're going to figure this out together, y'all, because I'm not sure what these blanks are, but let's go on a journey together, shall we? Awesome. Okay, so I think this says the trend line or line of best fit is a line that represents the trend or pattern between two variables. Yeah, I don't think that's right. Let's say not trend. I mean, it's trend, but it's like defining the word with the word. Like, what's a chicken? It's a chicken. You know, it's dumb. Let's say a relationship or pattern between two variables on a scatter plot. Okay, so when I look at, so when I say a trend line, this is what I'm talking about right here. This is a trend line, okay? So a trend line, it's like, again, it kind of goes through the data, but it's, again, we're not connecting the dots. Like, it was so nice, y'all, I had to say it twice. We never connect the dots on a scatter plot, okay? So we draw a trend line to help us see what the data is trying to tell us. Real world data, so like when we look at equations in class, equations are perfect. They're perfect world. So if I take my calculator and I put what do I have in here? I have y equals negative 3/4 x plus 6. And I look at that graph, that is perfect data. There is no real world stuff about it, right? But the real world's not perfect. And when we talk about bivariate data, we're talking about real world data. So I can't make a prediction. The way we make a prediction is we make a perfect line from imperfect data. So we generate a trend line from imperfect data and we use that trend line to make predictions, okay? So we draw that trend line to see what the data is trying to tell us. That trend line helps us make predictions. So it reflects the general relationship between variables in a data set. Okay. And it helps us to make reasonable predictions. I think someone knocked on the door. Reasonable predictions about what could happen. Okay. Now, that's what trend lines do. What do they not do? Well, they do not, like, include, there we go. They do not include, what do they not do? They do not include or connect every point in the data set, okay? When you look at this one, this trend line doesn't even touch any of the points on the data set. So you notice, like, none of these dots are on the line. We may have a trend line somewhere later. I don't think any of these even have trend lines on them. We may find a trend line later where we do have some points where it touches, okay? So it may or may not, it doesn't include or connect every point on the data. It may not even include any of the points. And it doesn't show exactly what will happen, okay? So remember, here, this is really, really important, okay? The dots show you what did happen. A trend line shows you what might happen, or what should happen, or what we think will happen, okay? So, like, look at this. Okay, I'm going to do this one. We're going to do this one with you, and I'm going to give you a minute to do the next one, okay? So, if we look at this trend line, okay? So, what they did was they took their data here, and then they, like, drew a trend line. I mean, obviously. And then from that trend line, sorry, my husband's gone, I can take my mask off. From that trend line, we we are going to be able to make predictions. And remember, again, we cannot make predictions on, oh my God, seriously, you guys, I'm looking for something with a clear edge that I can use to do this. Ha ha ha, found something. Okay. I'm having to mess up my whole house for this. Okay. So what they did was they kind of like, so pretend this is the edge of your badge. This is what you guys have as the edge of your badge. I'm so sorry. That was the craziest transition ever, but like, my camera, I can't pause. I just got to keep going. I got to barrel forward. Okay, so what I do is, so let's pretend that I'm trying to, let's look just to show you. When I'm trying to make a trend line, so I kind of take my clear whatever, and I try to make it look like the data. So do you see how like I've kind of got my straight edge here lined up, so it kind of looks like it's going, like making a straight line running parallel to the data, right? And then what I do is I just slide it right up into the data, and that's where I'm going to draw my trend line. Okay, so let me show you what I mean by that. That's what they did here. They put their line. They kind of put it parallel, and then they slid it right up there into the middle of the data. So they had about the same number of lines, dots above and below the trend line. That's how we draw a trend line. Okay. We're going to do more of these. So if that was just complete crazy nonsense, which I'm not surprised if it was, since I was scrambling through my drawer at that moment, let's talk about it. So now let's say it says, by looking at the trend line, we can predict that a baby that is, let's say, 23 inches long is expected to weigh some number of pounds. Okay, so I want you to tell me. So there are two possible answers. Okay, answer A is that the baby is predicted to weigh, you know, like about 11 pounds. Or that the baby is predicted to weigh about 12 pounds. Pause for a second, talk to your table group. Which one do you think it is? Okay, did you say A? Because you should have. These little, by the way, these little squiggly arrows means approximately, means about. I think it's actually, I think I might actually be wrong. I'm not sure. I'm not going to lie to you. This is what we're going to go with for now. If I'm wrong, I'll change it later. Okay, I mean, like with my mouth. Okay, because remember, once I draw the trend line, I don't pay attention to the dots. Okay. The dots are in the past. When I'm making a prediction, predictions are in the future, right? Expected, that's what I think is going to happen in the future, okay? So the dots are in the past. The line is the future, okay? So when I draw that line, I'm saying this is what's going to happen in the future. And like it goes on, like the future. It's going off into the future, okay? So this line is the future. So when they ask me future questions, I use the line. When they ask me past questions, I use the dots. Now, they shouldn't be asking me past questions about a scatter plot. But like, what if they said, was there ever a baby that was 23-inch baby that weighed 12 pounds? You would say yes, because look, it's right there. There was a baby. But if I say, what do we think a baby that's 28 inches long is going to weigh? Then we would say 11, because that's about where it goes on the line. And if you said something like 10.7, hey, that's fine too. Is 10.7 about 11? Yeah, it is. Because again, we're estimating. Okay. Now, drawing trend lines is kind of art. The more you do it, the better you get at it. But like, honestly, even sometimes I'll draw the same trend line. I'll draw it twice. I'll draw a different trend line each time I draw. You see what I'm saying? Like, I don't even, sometimes like when I do this in class, I do it from period to period, I'll draw a slightly different trend line each period, because again, it's not exact. It's like, it's an estimate, okay? So let's try this one. So I'm going to model, because that one, we just talked about making the prediction, but this one we have to actually draw our own trend line. Okay, so we're going to make predictions. So this is comparing hours of sleep and hours of watching TV. So we're trying to figure out how So hours of sleep, they're saying hours of sleep depends on how many hours you watch TV. So if I watch more hours of TV, what's going to happen to how much sleep I get? So by looking at what am I going to be looking at? It says I'm going to predict. So how do I predict? Predictions happen in the future, so I have to look at the trend line. Okay, I can predict that somebody who watched 5 hours of TV would get some number of hours of sleep. So in order for me to look at the trend line, I have to draw a trend line. So again, what I'm going to do, and I'm kind of trying to line this up with my hover cam, is I'm going to take my, so y'all can do this with the edge of your badges, but I'm taking this, whatever this clear thing is, and I'm kind of like lining it up. So do you see how like, it's kind of like, if I kind of put my pen through the data, it's kind of parallel to it. Now the reason we do this is because, like, let's pretend you're using something that's not clear. So like, let's pretend that you were using this calculator instead, right? Let's pretend you were using the edge of this calculator, okay? Well, I can't see if I've got it in between the points. Like I can't, like this might look like a good trend line, but when I look at it, it's below all the points. So it's not actually high enough. All right. So the reason, that's why it's really good to use the edge of your badge, because the edge of your badge sleeve is clear. So you can see a little bit above and a little bit below. But I'm going to start by lining it up below so that I can see. So like if I did it like this, I don't like that because like it's not steep enough. I need it to be a little bit steeper so that it looks like the data. You kind of see what I'm doing? I'm just playing with the steepness of the line. This looks pretty good to me. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and keeping, not changing the slope at all. I'm going to slide it up so that it looks like it's going through the data. And then once I get it in there, I'm going to draw a line. Is this going to be perfect? No, I'm making my best guess. All right. I'm making my best assumption. All right. So now it says by looking at the trend line, you can predict that someone who watched 5 hours of TV would get some number of hours of sleep. So literally, this is what you're going to do. I'm going to try and find another marker. I cannot find one. Okay, so that's right. I got a highlighter. Does it work? I don't know. We're going to find out. Okay, so what you do is, it says 5 hours. All right? So I'm going to go to hours, and I'm going to highlight that entire thing. All right? Now, I'm going to look, of course I don't have another highlighter because that would just be perfect. So I'm going to use this Mr. Sketch. Y'all, you know what's really sad? I just smelled it to try to figure out what it would smell like. And you know what it smells like? It smells like nothing. It's supposed to smell like watermelon. I'm very sad. This is going to really, really, really cramp my style. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my other highlighter or my marker or my pencil, and I'm going to draw an arrow across to the other axis. Now they don't always ask me about something on the x-axis. Sometimes they'll say like a person who got 5 hours of sleep watched how much TV. Okay, but when they did that, I got over here, and this is about 3.5 hours of sleep. Sounds good to me. If you did your trend line and you got like 4 hours of sleep, that's fine too. Now, if you did your trend line and you got 1 hour sleep, something's gone wrong, okay? So, like, I would say anything from 3 to 4.5 is probably going to be okay. It means you drew kind of an okay trend line. But remember, again, trend lines aren't perfect. And unless they're really trying to get you, they're probably not going to make the answers that close together. Okay, so so hopefully you don't have any questions. I want you to pause for a second, talk to your table group, see what questions you've got. If you need to, go ping another group, make sure you know what's going on, and then come back. And then we're going to look at this one. And I want you to try this. And just spoiler, this is Trendline. They really want you to write Trendline. And I actually redid these notes because I really want you to write Trendline. Because I want you always thinking, I look at the Trendline, I look at the Trendline. Trendline happens in the future. If I want to know what's happening in the future, I got to look at the Trendline. Okay? Remember, when you talk about something trending, that means it's getting more and more popular. But it's getting popular in the future. All right? If you expect that something's trending, it's going to get more popular. You're going to see more and more of it. Okay? So that's what we're looking for. I want you to try to do your own trend line here. Take a minute. And again, if your answer's not exactly the same as mine, it's cool. Take a minute and try this one. Okay. So now I'm going to try it. So, okay. Yikes. This looks about good to me. I think that looks about right. I feel like that's about the right slope for me. And again, And now I'm going to slide this up. And remember, when I position my line, I want to have about the same number of dots above as below the line. So that looks pretty good to me. Looks decent. Again, it's not perfect. I'm going to teach you how to have the calculator do that for you on Thursday. But for now, this is going to be good enough. So it says now, by looking at the trend line, you can predict, so I needed the trend line to make my prediction, the value of a car purchased 10 years ago would be approximately what? Okay, so again, I'm going to draw so 10 years is where I'm looking. So I'm going to highlight 10 years. Okay, so I'm highlighting 10 because that's what I'm looking for. And I want to see where my line crosses. So now I'm going to go, I'm going to use my pink pen because I just can't with this right now. And then I'm going to literally draw an arrow pointing at over there. Whatever that thing is, the y-axis, good Lord. And that's about $20,000. So because it says car value in thousands, $20,000. I mean, if yours was a little lower, I mean, I'd say anything from like 18 to 21 is probably okay. You see what I'm saying? I mean, again, it's estimating. All right. So here's what we need to remember. Okay, a trend line is going to follow the. I hate saying trend. What's a better word than trend? I'd kind of rather say it follows the pattern of the data. I like pattern better. Because, I mean, like, trend doesn't make as much sense, but pattern does. It follows the pattern of the general data. And let's just say the general pattern. Because what do we not do? So nice I said it twice. Don't make me say it 3 times. We do not connect the dots. Okay? And it's used to show the relationship between 2 variables. A trend line may or may not pass through one or more points on a scatter plot. Now this one we didn't talk about, but I want to tell you about this one too. Trend lines do not always begin at or pass through the origin. When people do a trend line on something with a positive slope, a lot of times they think that it has to go through the origin, but it doesn't. It doesn't have to go through the origin. Sometimes, like, look, this one, see, it's not going through the origin, it's going through around like 7.5, okay? The y-intercept ends up being where it is, okay? It doesn't have to start at the origin, and that's not the origin anyway, but whatever, that's not the point, okay? Okay, so this is the strategy. Hopefully y'all had a chance to try these. This is the strategy that I would use for these. If you didn't try them, that's okay. I want you to do this strategy and see how it goes. So here's the strategy. This is what I do. Literally, I wish I was joking about this. So it says when x equals 3, the value of y is approximately what? Okay, so when x equals 3, I highlight that row. Now notice, they have a dot on 7. All right. Do I look at the dots? No, I do not. I look at the line. Okay, so I'm going to try to make a line, whoopsie, that kind of goes through this data. Now, what I can also do is I can plot all these values. Okay, so let me just show you what that means. So it says A is 5. So I put a dot there and I label it A. B is 6, and I put B. C is 7, and D is 8. Okay, now I'm going to try and do my trend line through the data that they had. What did my line go through? It went through B. Okay, let me show you what that looks like again. Okay, so it says when x is 6, the value of y is approximately what? So I highlight x equals 6. Okay, now if you want to, right now, let's do the trend line. Okay, so like oh my gosh, this looks like, so this looks like the data, right? And then if I slide it up there, I think this is probably a good trend line right here. All right, and now I'm going to plot these points. So A is 4. Well, it's definitely not A. B is 5. I'm feeling pretty good about B. C is 6, and I don't like C because it's a dot, not a line. And D is 7. I mean, what's the answer? Boom, right there, it's B. Okay, So again, I'm going to go through the strategy one more time, and then again, I want you to pause and try this yourself. Okay? So oh goodness. Okay, so again, when x is 8, the value of y is approximately something. So x is 8. X is 8. So that's what I'm looking for. Now this one's going to be a little trickier because it's way over there. Okay, so I'm going to draw my trend line. That looks like, this looks just like the first one. Maybe it does. I don't know. It looks pretty dang close to the first one. Okay. Okay. Well, okay, that happened. Oh, we have to keep going, huh? Okay, whatever. Yeah, I don't know what happened here. I don't think this is the right graph, but we're going to go with it. So A is 6. B is 7. C is 9. And D is 10. I mean, it's got to be 10, but I think I messed up here. I feel like this should be 11. What do y'all think? I feel like I put the wrong graph here. You know what? It is what it is. Maybe let's just call round 3 a draw. Okay? So I want you to try round 4 using that same strategy. Okay. I'm going to come in and try mine. Hopefully you guys paused and tried it yourself. I feel like I'm pretty parallel here. Slide you right up in there. I ought to be able to see about half above, half below. Alright, there's my trend line. And if you're struggling to draw the trend lines, look, trend lines are hard to draw. Don't be like stressed out about that. Okay? So it says when x is 5, so I'm going to draw my line down to 5. The value of y is approximately what? Okay, so I'm going to start labeling these. A is 5. B is 1. Well, it ain't B. C is 3. It ain't C. And D is 7. I mean, I'd have to go with D for that one, because even though it's kind of between them, the line's a little bit closer to D than it is A. But what would I say? I would say it's probably closer to 6.5. Okay? Let's look at this one. Y'all try it, and then I'll try it. Pause it if you need to. Now notice, just to be clear, my line is straight, even though it's not like I'm estimating. So my line is straight, though, because I need a straight line to make predictions. So I need to use a straight edge. Those of you are like, no, that's the kind of janky we're not going to do. We're not just going to go like that. It needs to be a straight line. Okay, so when x is 80, there's no 80. Let's say when, oh my God, kill me in the face. Let's just drop off all these zeros and we'll drop off that. So let's say when x is 8. I'm sorry about this, you guys. When x is 8, so A, so let's make x 8, because, you know, here I am. And no way to fix it. And then I just put the cap literally on the wrong pen. Okay. The value of y is approximately, so A is 70, or 7, B is 5, C is 8, yeah, there's my winner with a bullet, and D is 10. Yeah, there's no doubt there that it's, we're going to say 8, that it's C. You're going to see a bunch of questions like this on your test, and you're going to practice that tonight. All right, let's try this last one. I make my line parallel, I slide it up between the points as best I can, and I draw my trend line. That one's a weird one. We're going to do our best here. Again, with the 70, 80, 90, 100. Goodness gracious. Let's lop off those zeros, because I don't know what happened here. I have no explanation for this, guys. Yeah, I don't know what happened here. Okay, well, you know, here we are. Are these even the same graphs as you have? I don't know. Let's find out. Okay, so on this one, when x is 0, I mean, when x is 0, the value of y is 7. So that's A, that's B, that's C, that's D. Okay? So this is how you're going to do tonight's homework on Bivariate 201.